And it's 10:30. We're not going to get calls. I need my glasses so I can see everybody. Okay. All right. Do you see that button that says share over on the right side over there? And it'll say clean. While I'm sharing the broadcast. Good morning, everybody.
You did it.
You did it? Good. Thank you. All right, I got everybody shared, everybody linked to where they should be linked, and all these good things. Of course, if you're watching this by rebroadcast, thank you so much. And look at this. This is David's pouch. This is David's pouch. 5 smooth stones. 5 smooth stones. I know you've seen rocks before. But today, I'm beginning a series. And I was trying to think of a good name. And so finally, Sandra just told me, she said, why don't you just call it David and Goliath? I said, well, yeah, but it doesn't sound too exciting. Well, the way I'm going to teach it's going to be exciting. It's called David and Goliath, Uncensored. Part 1 is Uncensored. And this is the 2020 version. Anybody that's been with me for any period of time has heard me teach this, this, I don't want to call it common, but this everyday story that everybody knows about David and Goliath, about the story of an underdog who literally takes down a giant. And if there's anything we need to grasp right now, it's how underdogs, those of us that don't know how things are going to turn out, how we need to take down giants that are in our lives. So we're going to, later on down there, we're going to talk about this. Once I get into the message, we're going to talk about it. I don't have to call it a message, but should I call it dialogue? Yeah, I can call it that message. And we're going to talk about David and Goliath, but it's going to be uncensored. And what I mean by uncensored, I'm not going to say bad words or anything, but I'm going to tell you what the truth. What you read in Scripture, you have to read between the lines on David and Goliath, because it's not really saying what you think it's saying. And I'm going to go even deeper than I did before. Think slinger. Think that right there. And some of you know, I remember that. Well, I'm going to go even deeper than that, because they're requiring this right now. Let me get, I don't want to call these announcements, but let me get some things out of the way. People have been asking, not very many people, but a few people have been asking, when do we go back to church? Or what they call, I believe this room, this is my sanctuary, and in the room that you're in is your sanctuary. This time that we carved out, whether you're sitting up in the bed and propping yourself up on the pillars, or whether you're eating a bowl of Cheerios or frying some ham and eggs, or whatever you're doing, this sanctuary that I'm in right now, I've studied in this room for 20 20 years. And things that you see on the wall, things that you see behind me are books that I've read, I've studied, I've gleaned from. Some of them have become my mentors. And this is the place where I have taken messages and balled them up, threw them away. I've had to preach them and then turn around and say, why in the world did I say something like that? And get up under the desk and just cry and all those kind of things like that. This is my sanctuary, but I've got the opportunity to bring in this sanctuary to you. And so move over right now. We're in your home. So I don't believe that church is a building. I believe that people are the church. We are the church. ALC, we are the church, the ecclesia, the called out. That's what it means. So when we gather in a building, we make that building what we call church. Actually, we don't go to church. We actually are the church that's using the building. And then once we leave the building, then it's not a church. I don't care if it's got a steeple, a bell, and it says church on the front. That's not the church. The moment the people leave it, it's not the church. It's just a building. There's nothing holy about it, but while the people are in it, there is a holy groundness to it. We make that space holy. We declare that that space is something set aside for our particular purposes. So we just got to rethink it and think differently like we are right now. So people are asking, when do we go back to church or back to the building? If you remember about 3 weeks ago, or should I say around the first part of May, when the governor said, well, the churches are open. And I said to you, I don't trust that. Not right now. I don't trust what the governor is saying. I don't trust what the president is saying. I don't trust any of that right now. I meant that. And I wanted to wait and I wanted to see. And I said, give me 30 days. Let me wait and see. And we waited for 30 days. And then it got to Memorial Day. I knew right in my spirit, down in the north of my north, and you knew it too, that this is something that is not going to do quite well. It's not going to work. And I said, let me wait for another 21 days. So we got into June, which is where we are now. And so here we are. And we've got this explosion of these numbers of COVID-19. And no matter, right now, the Apostle Paul would write letters, the letter to the Corinthians, letter to the Ephesians, and he would send them to the church in Jerusalem, the church at Corinth, the church, and he would address them to the letters to the Ephesians and send it to Ephesus, and they would read them in the churches, and where the people were in the houses, and they would read them from house to house, things of that sort. Wherever they gathered, they would read them on the streets or by the waterfall, wherever they did. That's what they happened. Some were out in the fields under a tree, and they read them under the shade of a tree. Wherever people meet and gather of like faith, that becomes that church. And so here we are right now. As you click on, this church is clicking on. So that's why it's important. Comment. When you say good morning, it's wonderful. It's good to be able to say it. Make your comments. If we say something that you can say hallelujah, you can spell it. Just HALLI, whatever you want to halle. And if that or amen or thumbs up emojis, whatever, if it's something that really hits you and you understand, hey, I got this, that helps a lot. Make sure you share it. And that share is so important. Share with some people that you know would be interested. And when they see it, they say, now I see why you're the way you are, because I see that level of teaching that you dig into. And make sure you like it. Like it now before you forget. Don't say, well, I want to wait till it's over so I can see whether or not I liked it. It's going to be good. Like it. Just like it. So when are we going back to the building? We don't know. Let's wait and see. And let's just live long and stay strong right here. Also, let me say something. We've got people who are coming, who are watching us for the first time. If you're here for the first time, type the word new in the comment. Just say new or first time. We've got people that are watching this, and I go back and I see it, and I want to know if this is your first time watching our telecast, because it makes a difference. And let me tell you something else that's happening. Another phenomenon that's taking place. People who used to be members of ALC, who are in Florida right now, and they're going through a tough time right now, who are in Florida. There's some members we have who are in Alabama. We've got some who are in Cleveland, Ohio, some family members, and people who are in Louisiana, Baton Rouge, some who are out in California now, just all over, who used to be, or say, I used to be a member. You used to be my pastor. Well, let me tell you something. Now that the church has gone viral, now that the church is not a building, and we're understanding that it's not building wise, guess what you can do? You can be a member again. Yes, you can be a member, whether you're in Alabama, whether you're in Florida, and you may say, well, I'm already a member of a church. You can have 2 churches now. Membership is different. It's different. You're able to come home. To some of our members, and I'm just going to be real honest with you. You probably shouldn't have left in the first place, but you had to do some things, make some decisions, maybe because of a husband or wife, children, some things you did. Well, nobody's in church right now, so it's different. Listen, come home. And you don't have to worry about coming home and walking through the door and people looking at you and saying where they been and all those kind of things. You ain't got to go through all that. All you got to do is come on, click right where you are right now. Tell your family members, tell your friends, listen, come home. Let me tell you how we figure it out. When you do your mylc.org, or when you do your text to give 713-742-2035, we'll talk about all that later. Once you give, the moment you give, we still have your records. Yes, we keep them for years. We didn't just erase you. I know you think we did. No, we did not. So when you give something, it pops the record right back, and it brings all your old records right back online. Yes. And we know that you're there. So that's how you do it. And that's how you can come back. And we got to do it. I'm going to tell you why. We have to reteach some things. Some of our people need to come back home. We have to reteach some things. Some of the churches that you're in, listen, they need to get themselves together. And right now, it's not a good place for you to be a part of. I know you like it, and maybe you feel that you're called there, but they need to reteach their people. Some of the people that are standing up there, we got pastors and friends of mine that are standing up saying racism is sin, but I'm saying to them, it's got to be more than that. You got to do more than just say racism is a sin. You got to reteach some of these things, some of this, the way this gospel is being done. So please, come on, come back home. I'm looking forward, and we can take this thing on into the next. Get healed, get your mind straight. David and Goliath is a story that we know very well here in America. And I want to take this moment and just really dig off deep into it. So now this is where you hit your likes, hit your comments. It's 1 Samuel chapter 16 and 17. Actually, the entire story, those 3 chapters, 16, 17, and 18. I'm not doing what my seminary, I was going to say cemetery, but my seminary professors taught me that, you can give a text, and if you give your scripture and people stand up, then they can sit down, and then you go off into your sermon and you give your introduction and your 3 points, and then you're done. Or I can do a topical, just come up with a topic. There's different ways to do it. This is more what they call exegete. In other words, I'm just talking about some things. I'm just going down some passages. And what I'm going to do is tell you, first of all, tell you the story. David and Goliath. David, here's how we learned it. David was a young boy, young shepherd boy, keeper of sheep. And when he left those sheep, one day the prophet Samuel came by and had this horn, like from a ram's horn, and had oil inside of it. And when he saw David, boom, he poured that oil. Oil flowed on David. David got the anointing. Oil symbolizes anointing. And he was anointed to be king, although he was a little young, 11, 12-year-old boy. And then he went back to keeping the sheep. And then one day he went to work in Saul's court, because Saul, who was the king of Israel at that particular time, who did not know that David had been anointed by Saul the prophet, because had he known that, he'd have had a fit, because he was no longer the anointed king. God had somebody else waiting in the wings. And so the King Saul would often have these mental lapses, and he would get what the Bible called evil spirits, and he would just go off. So David, who was a musician, they brought him in, and he played the harp, and the music soothed Saul, and Saul felt better, and then kept David around, because David could play that harp like nobody else. Anyway, later on down the line, David went home, see his father, came back, because his brothers were also in the army with King Saul. And so when David came back, he heard this guy out there talking about, hey, let's fight. And what it was there were two people, two kingdoms. One was the Philistines and one was the Israelites. And the Philistines was on one hill, the Israelites was on another hill, and in between them was a valley. And both of them were standing still because they couldn't fight. They were at a impasse. You say, well, why weren't they fighting? Well, if the Philistines came down the hill, they would have to go uphill to fight the Israelites. Well, it's hard to fight uphill. You don't battle uphill. Israel would have come down and just whooped the mess out of them. The same thing, if Israel had come down and went up the hill, it would have been the same thing. The Philistines would have whooped the mess out of them, because you don't battle uphill. So they were at an impasse. Anyway, this big guy, this big tall guy, the giant Goliath, came down and had on all his uniform, his armor, and everything else, and stood down in the middle of the valley. And here's what he says. He starts telling them, get this about. He says, listen, the armies don't have to fight. Just send somebody down and fight me. Send me a warrior, fight me. And if I win, then Israel will serve the Philistines. But if you win, then the Philistines will serve Israel. Hey, you couldn't have a better deal than that. The only thing is, who is going to fight this guy? This guy had, his helmet was this brass helmet. He had on this metric pounds. This guy was built, Lou Ferrigno, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, this guy was way beyond that. Even The Rock would have a hard time with Goliath. Goliath was major. And he had on these shin splits that were brass, and all this armor, everything he had on his shoulders and his calf. I mean, this guy, he had this I was getting ready to call it a stick. He had this spear that he would throw. It had weights on it, and it had a rope tied to it. So once he threw it, he could bring it back and start throwing it again. This guy was major. Everybody was saying, you going down there? No, I ain't going there. You going down there? No, I ain't going down there. And we'll ask the Lord to send somebody. You would think that, Lord, can't you come down there and fix? No, this didn't work this way. And so for 40 days this was going on. Finally, one day David was coming in and had brought his brother some food from home in a care package, and turned and heard this guy. And after a while, I'll tell you more about it, he heard him, and he said, who the heck is this guy? He said, I'll go down and fight him. And so they take him to the king, and the king says, you'll go down? He said, but you're just a boy. David says, I'll go down and fight him. He goes down, fights him, gets the slingshot, goes down to the brook, gets 5-foot smooth stones, put them in his little shepherd's pouch, takes one out, puts it in his slingshot, slings the thing, kills the giant. The giant lays on the ground. Bam. He cuts his head off. Goliath is dead, holds his head up. I told you this is uncensored. Holds his head up. Bam. The Philistine went crazy, started running. Israel ran down the hill, started running after the Philistine. I mean, they were winning that day. Now, that's the story. And the young shepherd boy, who was the underdog, killed Goliath. Now, this is important to us because I could talk. I'm going to talk about Goliaths, but I could talk about a lot of different things about Goliaths and what Goliath really is based on our community and based on what's happening out there in the world right now. But what we're concerned about is what are the giants that are in my life. What I'm concerned about is what's the giant in my life. I could go through a lot of different things and give some good examples. But I'm concerned. I got some giants in my life. There may be some habits that I can't break. It's a giant. It might be some bills with this whole COVID-19. Go back to work, get off work. Then once they say, well, we're bringing everybody back. Now you bring everybody back. Now the whole thing says, listen, you're going to have to go back. Then when you go back to work, you got to wear your mask while you're at work. Now you've got people out there in the streets that's saying, don't wear masks because this is a hoax. I mean, you've got some big time conservative Republican businessmen that are saying, this is a hoax. This is not real. Take your mask off. I mean, we've seen it. We saw it in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where a rally was held. No masks. We saw it where even a church in Phoenix, Arizona, was telling people they had an air conditioner that could take the coronavirus out the air. Now, you think that was, wow, you think, whoa, believe me, if that was true, it would be in every hospital all over the world. We haven't seen it anywhere. But at that, they were no masks. You don't have to take it. We don't believe in masks. It's not real. It's a hoax. That can be a giant. Oh, we'll get off on all these things over time. That could be a giant. Your economic situation could be a giant. The person you're staying with, quarantining with, can be a giant. Maybe you had to quarantine and you thought, hey, it's no big deal, but then all of a sudden you caught it, and now here you are sitting at home. These are all giants. But a giant is anything that makes you the underdog and believes itself to be all powerful. We got to get into the mindset of David. We got to find out who David was. But in order to find out who David was, to understand Goliath, to understand how he took Goliath down, to understand what these 5 stones means, the symbols behind them, what it means. How can we take down the giants in our lives? In order to do that, we got to go a little bit deeper and understand what's behind this story. And in order to know that, I got to tell you the truth about this story and get deep into it. Now, I'm not going to be able to do this in one message or one sermon, but I'm going to take pieces of it. And I'm not going to be able to tell you all of the stones today and what some of those stones represent and how some of these stones can take down the giant. This is just the introduction, but I can get down into some of the meat of this. Now, let's get down into some real truth. And if you got a Bible, or your iPad, or whatever you do, your phone, you're going to be able to see this right here. Now, I'm not going to take you scripture by scripture. Take too long. I don't have that time. But what I will do, I'm telling you where it is. 1 Samuel, chapter 16, 17, and later on it's going to be 18 to show you the outcome of things. First of all, here's the first thing I want you to get out of your head. Just throw it away. David was not a little boy. Whoop, say it with me. David was not a little boy. We think David was a little boy because that's what the pictures show us. It shows us that David was this 12 or 13-year-old boy who killed the giant with the slingshot. No, he was the youngest son of his father. There was 8 kids there. And David was probably in his 20s. I would probably say maybe his mid-20s, closer to the younger mid-20s, maybe even his older 20s. Because most people don't realize that, because this is what you have to understand about David. Later on down the line, you say, well, how do you know this? Well, you see, he was keeping sheep, a little shepherd boy. Well, no, that's not what he was. He was the keeper of the sheep, but he had learned how to take care of sheep. Now, when you out there with sheep all day and all night long, your job is to protect them sheep and to make sure that you got more sheep at the end of the night than you had. David had learned how to protect the sheep. He had a shepherd's staff, had a crook in it. His job was to make sure he had the wolves. The little tip was to guide the sheep. The other one was to break the neck of the wolves. Not only that, David tells us later on that he killed a bear and he killed a lion. And he delivered a lamb out of the jaws of a lion. Now, this is not no 12 or 13-year-old boy. We got to know how he did it. And I'm going to tell you how he did it. And so later on in the scripture, in chapter 16, they explain who David is, because he goes to work in the king's court. He goes to work for Saul. And so when Saul says, well, who is he? They said, well, David, he's a good musician, gets rid of the evil spirits. He understands various matters of life, which means he's educated. He understands how life works, how business works. He goes on to say that he is a man of war. Listen to this. They call him a man of war, a man of valor, somebody with character, and a man of war. Why would you call David a man of war in chapter 16 when you think he's a boy that just watched sheep? So we already know he's a man. How else do you know he's a man? Because when he finally goes and sees Goliath for the first time, now check this out. We always think that David went to kill Goliath just because Goliath was a mean guy, and David was patriotic, and David went to fight for his cause and for his purpose. Is there not a cause? Because that's what David says. Well, when he got there, the first thing David heard was somebody that said, well, anybody who kills Goliath will get money, he'll be paid, he'll be wealthy. Number 2, Saul will give him his daughter to marry. And number 3, his parents, his family's estate, his family's farm, or wherever David was, will be completely paid for. There will be no taxes. You got to understand how heavy the king taxed the people at that particular time. God told him that if you want a king, you're going to pay taxes. And he's going to take your sons to be in the army. 3 of Jesse's, David's father's sons, was in the army. That's why David was there. Now, when David heard that, he went over and talked to his brothers. And while he was talking to his brothers, he turned and heard Goliath say what he said. Send me somebody to fight with me. Whoever wins. If you win, we serve you. But if I win, you serve us. David turned and said, didn't say, who is that guy? He went back to where those people were staying, and he said, now, what is it that you will get? If the person who kills Goliath, what do they get? This is in the scripture. You can look this up in 1 Samuel chapter 17. Read it. It's brilliant. It's right there. You never see it because you think he's a little boy. What would a little boy want with? What did the little boy want? What did David want? They said, you get money, you get rich. Number two, you get a woman. If he was a 12-year-old boy, come on, go with me now. If David was a 12-year-old boy, first of all, he wouldn't care about being rich. He wouldn't care about no woman. And what would he care about his father making money? No. David wanted some money in his pocket, wanted a woman at his side, and take care of his family. That way, everything's taken care of. You got to be in your 20s to want that woman. That's what he wanted. And later on, chapter 18, you'll see that he didn't get the woman that at first he wanted, but he finally got the second one that he wanted because the king didn't do the thing right. So after that, you said that was the second time. And then his brothers shook him and said, David, what are you doing here? Get back to them sheep, man. Get away. And David said, wait a minute, who's this guy? He's talking about our people like that. He had a purpose in his mind. He couldn't stand Goliath talking about his people. And then he turned from his brother and said, hold on a minute. And he turned back to the other people, found some other folk and say, now tell me a third time, what do I get? What does a man get if he kills Goliath? And it says, and they said to him the same thing that they said before. David wanted to know 3 times what you got for killing the giant. And at the same time, the purpose. Now, David says, all right. He said, I can do this. So they told the king, went to the king and said, there's a guy up there that says he can do this. And everything's cool. The money, the woman, and the money for his family, no taxes. And so the king says, no, I don't think you can do this. He's a man of war and you are but a youth. See, this is how we get it all messed up because the king called him a youth. We think youth is 12 and 13 or 8. No, he was in his 20s. Now, when you my age, anybody in their 20s, you're a shepherd boy. You're a kid. You're a youth. And so Saul said, no. David said, listen, let me explain something to you. I killed the bear and I killed the lion. Saul said, okay. He said, I had a lion. That lion had one of my lambs in its jaws. The lion had grabbed the lamb. The lamb was still alive and was taking the lamb away. The lion didn't kill him immediately. They took him away to kill him when they found safety. And as the lion was there, it said, David said, and I delivered the lamb from the jaws of the lion. And he says, and afterward, after I delivered the lamb from the jaws of the lion, he said, then the lion came after me, rose up against me, and I grabbed the lion by its beard and killed him. Actually, he slit his throat. He said, well, wait a minute. What does that mean? It means that how did he get the lamb out of the lion's mouth? How did he stun him? With the only weapon that a shepherd would have that David had been practicing from the time he was a little boy. It was a slingshot. I'm not talking about, this little stick and the little rubber band and the... I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about the kind of slingshot that's a little bitty piece of leather that's got 2 ties, strings on the end of it. And it's a pouch right there. You put a rock inside and you turn around and you turn that thing around. And you learn. What David did, when that lion took the lamb, David took his slingshot and swirled it and let it loose on that lion. It stunned the lion to where the lion let go of the lamb. David got the lamb. When the lion finally came to, it says David grabbed his beard and killed it, which means he slit his throat. That's the only way you can kill a lion. You grabbed his beard, pulled it, and lifted it and slit his throat. But he got stunned, first of all, by the slingshot. Do you know how hard a bear's head is? You don't just hit a bear. When you slingshot a bear, that is a heavy blow. Let me tell you about the slingshot. Oh, yes, sir. That slingshot, that rock, that stone that I just showed you earlier, it is believed to travel at least 150 feet. And the power of that rock is landing at like about, I would say the force of a bullet from a .45 caliber gun. David was what you call a slinger. See, some of you know this. David was a slinger. He was not trained in the army. He was not trained. He was called a slinger. Now let me explain to you what a slinger was. In the army at that particular time, now you didn't know, we're talking 3,000 years ago. Oh, that wasn't long ago. Yes, it was. That's like talking, if somebody was referring to us, it would be like the year 5020. Now, like, who cares what happens to those of us in 2020 if you live in the world year 5020? David, in those days, the army was comprised of three different categories in an army. Number one, you had your ground troop. These are your ground pounders. These were the guys, these were your foot soldiers. Then you had your cavalry, those that were on the horses. Then you had your artillery. These were the ones that shot the arrows, but also did the slingshots. Now, you may not think the slingshot is very powerful. Like I said, it is the force of a caliber, of a .45 caliber gun shot, a bullet. It slings about 6 times. They could sling it. They would turn it around on the force. It would be like, shroom, 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 shroom. It's about 6 or 7 times. But they would do it within a second, 1 second. It was like, David was, and that's how they practiced. They practiced, and the more that thing would force, and when you ran with it, it would add, the legs would give even force to it. And when they released it, it took a second, 1 to 2, just 1 second, just like a bullet, to get to its destination. David had been practicing this. He didn't learn it in the army. He had been practicing the field with his sheep. And he had become good. Oh, I mean, you can, there's stuff right there. You know, there's a reason we're in this pandemic right now. And some of us have had to be challenged to do some different things, to learn some different things, to learn some different jobs. Some of us are not going to go back to the same job. We're not going back to the same places where we used to work. And if we do, we've got to start thinking about doing different jobs, doing different things. I'm sorry. You may not go back to the same thing that you went to school for. Things are going to be different. You got to find out what is the demand, and the demand is going to tell you where you're going to make your money. You don't make money based on what you went to school for. You make money based on the demand of society. And when society starts changing, oh my God, you got to change with society. Anyway, this is what happened with David. He had practiced. He had become so good that when the king says, "You'll kill Goliath," he said, "Yeah." He says, and David said, "I killed a bear and I killed a lion." What he was saying is, I'm very good at what I do. The artillery was where they did the projectiles. In our modern day armies, you got your foot soldiers, you know, with your guns and things of that sort. You've got your cavalry, which is those who are driving tanks, or those who are driving the trucks and in the cars, which also shoots tanks, which projectiles, which is a more modern thing. But back then, you also had your archers. You saw them in those old movies. The ground soldiers who had the shields and the sword. They got down, and you saw the archers. The archers would shoot the things, but then also some of those old movies, they would shoot the projectiles. Listen, they were very accurate and they were very good. They were just throwing rocks. They were hitting things. The Roman army had a tool, almost like forceps, that was used to get the projectiles out of a soldier's body. That's how powerful these rocks were. They didn't just hit you, they went in you. That's the kind of force it was. Doctors had David was a slinger. As a matter of fact, when you read the scriptures, you'll see, and David slang the rock, or slang it at Goliath. He was a slinger. Now, you can look at it back in the Old West. Add the word gun to the beginning, and what do you hear? Gun slinger. What was a gunslinger? A gunslinger was somebody that they would pay. The townspeople would pay, say like the bad guys that took over the town. They would hire a gunslinger, somebody that they hired for pay to come in and say to the bad guys, listen, if you beat me, then you got the town. But if I beat you, you get a town back to the townspeople. That was a gunslinger. He just didn't get paid for it. He had been out there with the sheep. He didn't know nothing about getting paid. So anyway, he goes down there. He gets down there to Goliath. And he knew he could whoop him. How did David know he could bring him down? Because David had already seen he had on all this armor, but there was one place he was vulnerable, where the lion was vulnerable, where the bear was vulnerable. It was his forehead. And when David slang that thing, when Goliath said, come to me, the Goliath just, and here's where the uncensored part, Goliath looked at David and asked the question and called him a dog. Actually made reference to his looks. David was a nice looking boy. He didn't have a beard or anything. He was a nice looking young man. And Goliath made a sexual innuendo toward David. David didn't like it. And he said, why would you send this little, thing to me? Goliath said. It's nothing but a little dog, something I would deal with, how I would deal with a dog. And David said, okay, dog. He said, when I get through with you, I'm going to lay your carcass open out here on this field. And Goliath said, come to me. Because Goliath expected a different kind of battle. See, you know how they used to fight? They used to fight. Infantrymen would fight. They would come and meet each other. And sword and shield. You ever see them old movies? And they hit the sword, bam, against the shield. And the other one say, bam, 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 bam. And they would fight like that. And whoever wound up with more experience, and they would win the fight, and because they were stronger. David was doing some underdog work. He said, I don't intend to fight this man the way he thinks I'm going to fight him. I'm going to fight him with a projectile. I'm artillery. He's infantry. I'm going to whoop him this way. Now, why is this important to you? Why is this important to me? And there's so much more to it. It's in the COVID world that we're living in now. We have to begin to realize what the giant is. Let me tell you something. Racism definitely is this giant. The police, this is an area that has to be retaught. People are saying, well, why are they talking about defund the police? Why are they talking about the police departments? You just got a few bad apples. Well, here recently, in the last week, we've been getting videos and a lot of old cases been popping up. And we're finding out there sure are a whole lot of bad apples in this big bushel of bad apples. It's something a lot more wrong. There's something more wrong. There's a lot of bad apples here. Something is wrong with the system. Goliath represents the system. The head of Goliath represents a mindset. I mean, they were doing a big thing about masks. Whenever people saying, "Oh, this, why are you wearing masks and why are you going?" It's nothing but a big old hoax. Just rip the mask off, and this is something that's being done. I mean, you got people. They had doctors. They had business owners. And they're saying you're trying to keep us from making money. They had a little protest downtown a couple of days ago, I think yesterday. And I'm asking myself the question, why are you trying to make me take my mask off? Now, let me explain something to you. I'm a man of faith. I'm a man that believes in the power and the presence of God. I'm a man that believes in health. I believe in healing. I believe that we should have our immune system. I believe if you got a strong immune system, I believe that if you eat right, I believe that if you take care of yourself, I believe that you can get past COVID-19. I believe you can get past all those things. I believe that you could get through. But we don't know what this COVID-19 is. Is it natural? Or did it come out of a laboratory? We don't know where it came from. We don't know who sent it. We don't know how it's done. And so, but you say, what is the mask for? Of course, the mask protects others. The mask protects others from your sneezing and your coughing and everything. You know what? If there was no COVID-19, I kind of like the idea of masks, so I don't want to have to deal with all your coughing and wheezing. And then I don't know where you got what you got from. I don't know where it came from. Then people will tell you, "Oh, I don't have anything. It's just my allergies." Really? How do I know that? We're learning. If we are going to heal ourselves, our people, ladies and gentlemen, listen to me. Listen to me. It is time for our people to come back, come away for a while, and heal ourselves. Listen. Okay, I'll be back in a minute. Listen, let me say this to you. And this is important because, and we're going to pray about this thing, and I'm going to give you that last statement about that first stone, what that first stone is that we're going to use to bring down that giant. I first of all want to say thank you for all of your giving and all your gifts. They have been precious and they have been so special to helping us keep going and to getting this message. Do you know how important this message is right now? We are gathering our people back. Yes, our people are coming. We're gathering them. And we're gathering them with this message. We don't know how long it's going to take. But I know one thing, we're not going to let people talk us out of becoming strong. Sometimes you got to pull back. Remember talking about, in Tulsa, they was talking about Black Wall Street. They called it segregation. But the reason those people gained all that wealth, because they start bringing their income, their money. They start pulling their dollars and moving their dollars among themselves. They had to because of segregation. But what would happen now if we start as we give and as we, well, the money's going to go to the preacher, the money's going, listen, ain't nobody going through all that right now. We're not worried about that. We don't have any, our church buildings. We got to get this message out. We got to put our message out in equipment and things right now. You still got to pay for your buildings if you're going to keep them when you get back. You still got to pay for them. But right now, we got to reteach our people. Change our programs, retool all of this. Not just teach our people that God is in the sky. Now we got to teach them that God is in here. This is where we got to reteach. Get the God out of the sky and get the God in here. Yeah, I know I'm out of my time. Listen, go and your offerings. If you believe in tithing, and I'm only talking to those who believe in it, I'm not talking to everybody. I'm not asking everybody to do it. But if you believe in it, and you're saying, you know what, I'm going to take 10% of what I have. Whatever your offering is, whatever you're giving at this particular time, here's how you do it. You can go to myalc.org. myalc.org. That's our newly restructured, reorganized website. It's brand new. We got some of the same old things, but it's brand new. It's on a very powerful, strong platform. Bandwidth has been tripled. It's powerful. And believe me, as you click it, it streams right through and enables you to give on that platform. It is safe. It is secure, verified. It's got all these things that are there to make sure that your giving is safe. Not only that, but you can also, once you go to myalc.org, if it's your first time, you open up your own little account there. After that, you give. It's even easier than the first time. And you can go in and check your giving and see where you gave and see your own record. Oh, it'll be beautiful. If you want to get your tax statements every quarter, if you want to pull your tax statements down every year, you don't have to wait for the church secretary to send you stuff. You can just pull it down just like that. See your records. You can see what you do. Secondly, you can also use your app. Your app is the same way. You'll see donate button on your app. You say, I never even used the app. Listen, download the app. You can type in Ed Montgomery, or you can type in My ALC or Abundant Life Center on the App Store and get the app. The app will allow you to see, we're going to be putting out the messages on the app. They're going to come off Facebook and they're going to just strictly be on the app. You'll be able to see my radio show on KTSU 90.9 FM. Not see it, but hear it. Every Monday from 12 noon to 1 p.m. where we talk about stuff that in different ways than we talk about it here. And you'll be able to hear that. You can, if you're in England, if you're in Russia, you can hear the radio show everywhere by downloading the app. And the third thing, you can give by text. Just take your phone and put the text message in and text it to the number 713-742-2035. Did I get that right? Mm-hmm. Okay. 713-742-2035. And text it $5, $2, what makes it get you $4, $7, $20, whatever you want to give, because it's just up to you. This makes a difference. And support, and for those of you who are people who are saying, I want to be a member of ALC, by doing that right there, it will get you connected. We will see it, and we will get you in this particular group and everything. I'll be able to see it, and I just want to thank you personally for those things that you do. Now, this first stone, this first stone that I believe, and these stones are going to be different based on who we are, but I believe this first stone that is going to be sent is going to be endurance. Say it with me. Say it to yourself. Endurance. Endurance is the ability to be the same way all the way through. When times get tough, you're going to want to give up. They tell you it's COVID-19. Gotta go. You may have to go back in. You may have to get back in that house. They're saying that now it's not just those who are older, but it's the 20s and the 30-year-olds that are experiencing that are experiencing those hospital stays. The hospitals are filling up. The reason we don't want to fill those hospitals up, and people say, well, the only reason those numbers are going up because they're testing more. Well, that's not what's telling us that. It's the hospitals that's saying the beds are full. They're opening up NRG. The beds are full. And many of these things that this COVID-19 is giving symptoms, we don't know what it is. Listen, I'm not listening. I hear what the governor is saying. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm certainly not listening to the president. I'm not listening to the vice president. I hear what they're saying. I hear what the governor is saying. But I'm listening to your medical experts. Well, medicine, I believe in God. I don't believe in medicine. They don't have no. Listen, let me tell you about medicine. Medicine is just taking the time to track things. You take medicine along with faith. Faith without works is dead. I'm listening to the medical people. I'm listening to all these different things. But my main thing is to keep the people who are in my care safe and to give them and to absorb as much information as I can to share with them. Listen, I'm not cutting off things just to tell you, just get out there and trust and have faith in God. Listen, you trust, you have faith in God. Yes, you do have faith in God. But let me tell you, but you're going to say, wear the mask. Of course, wear the mask. Don't listen to these people out there. Well, we don't wear masks. We're faith people. We don't wear masks. The president don't wear a mask or whatever. The president behind you, but he got money, ladies and gentlemen. He has the money. He makes them clean all the little desks and makes them clean his little spoons and things before he has money to make him do. You got to clean your own stuff. You don't have president money. This is why we are together. Listen, I'm reading this stuff day in and day out. Some days I got to take it off because my brain just gets it. I read this stuff day in and day out. I'm reading scriptures. There's prayer. I'm looking at spiritual things. I'm looking at all the different things, the prayer, the meditation, all the things that we have to heal our bodies. We're looking at wellness. We're looking at how we eat, all these things. Listen, we going to talk about a lot of these things. Some of those things we got to let go of. You don't even have to even let go of your chitlins and your big fate. Sandra, get out my, you in my, I know you eat your chitlins. I didn't say you can't eat them. Eat them every leap year. As every 4 years. Because if we're going to heal our bodies and get our bodies back in order, that's one of the stones. But now, see, I'm getting off my time is up. But that first one is endurance. When you feel like giving up, dig in. When you feel like giving up, let me tell you something about the tougher it is when you feel like giving up. If the miracle is coming at midnight, then you are at 11:59. The tougher it is when you say, I don't know if I can make it any further. I don't know if I can go any further. I don't know if I can hold on any longer. All you got to do is endure just a little bit longer. Because that is the indication that you are close to the miracle. There have been some times in my life I have wanted to give up and give in and just let go. Forget all this. There's one time I even asked the question. I ain't asked that question very long, many times, but 1 or 2 times in over 40-some years of ministry. And I was wondering, I said, I've been preaching all these years. Do people get it? Am I spinning my wheels? I'm looking out and they're talking about the people won't wear the mask. They the bars, people are mad about the bars. They had well, I believe we have the right as Americans. Listen, those of you who got a little bit of this color in you, listen, you ain't never really had these great rights in America. You had to learn how to get into your own community. You had to learn how to love one another. You had to learn how to even get into your church. And if you didn't go to church, you got on your knees, you learned. You learn how to even bang on the floor and say, Lord, if you don't do this for me, I don't know how it's going to get done. And sure enough, when you least expected it, the power of God hit your body and hit your life and hit your mind. Somebody said that when God touches your life, he is a hard regulator.
Yes, he is.
Listen, no, it's not a hard regulator. He's a hard fixer and a mind regulator. Some of you know that in this whole COVID thing, there's been some times, I know it, you felt like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my mind. I got news for you. God. Oh, somebody right there can hit that. I know somebody could hit that button that right there and say, oh, yes, yes, sir. I know. If you don't mind telling you ain't got to tell the testimony. Just say, I know what you're saying. I know. Because there's been times I've just had to put my whole life in his hands and say, listen, I can't figure this out. I'm not listening to them folk. They can say all they want to out of Washington. It's time for me to reel in and to get close to my prayer partners. Amen. To God's people. People who love me for who I am. Now let me tell you something else that's about a thing that's about to happen. You're going to see people from now hear me closely, other races who are going to connect with your church. We have people who connect with ALC from all races, but you're going to see 80 to 84% of a lot of these young people have already left churches, the big churches.
Amen.
But they've been out there on that protest line.
Amen.
And I'm going to tell you something. These young people, and many of these people, they're not just young, but in their 30s and their 40s and their 50s, they've been out there protesting Black Lives Matter. The people who bleed with you, the people who walk with you and take risks with you on that protest line, these are the people you want in your life. I don't care what color they are. Listen, don't just say racism is a sin. I don't like racism. Listen, when you protest with me and bleed with me and go through ride or die with me, hey, it tells me something. That you'll worship with me. I don't have to look at you crossways or figure out what's going on with you. I know what's going on with you because you are out there with me. Listen. Join hands with me. He said, but I'm on the other side of a computer. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter whatsoever. This is about spirit. We are spiritually connected. Oh, I sense the healing power of God flowing right now. Money. Yes. I sense that need. I know what's happening. You're getting close to the end of that unemployment. But let me tell you something. God has another waterfall that is about to flow, cascade over your life. There's another door. There's another opening. There is another window that is going to open in your life. It's already opening. It's already opening right now. I thank you right now, Father, for what you are doing, for what you've already done. And I pray right now for their health, for their life, for their families. Keep them in your care and give them the strength when endurance is necessary.
Yeah.
Because I know that the breakthrough is right there. I thank you for that. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Lord, for already answering that prayer.
Amen.
Listen, you want to be a part of ALC? You know what to do. Just say, I'm new, but I'm joining. I want to be a member. I want to be a part. I want to be a thing of everything. And I got to go, dog.
And a happy holiday. Happy 4th of July this week.
4th of July. Let me tell you something. They're going to have a problem with 4th of July this week.
No, but
They're going to be saying, what country am I in? 4th of July. What freedom? They're going to, listen, I promise you, this going to be, oh, yeah, and don't tear down them statues. Listen, did you know they was tearing down statues?
yes, yes.
They're trying to tear down the statue of Jesus.
Jesus.
Yeah, well, let me tell you something. I ain't going to fight you about it because thou shalt make no graven images. Let me go before I say something I ain't got no business saying. Bye, y'all. Love ya. I am prosperous, healed, sound of mind, and stable of mind motion. I shall not die but live. Declare the works of let's say it. I shall not die but live to declare the works of the Lord. For he has come that we might have life and life more abundantly. Bye, ALC. Those of you, love you. Thank you, Mark. Brand new. Y'all haven't heard this one. ALC Choir. You haven't heard this song. Brand new.